All right. We'll see. Want to make sure we got your input sound too. So it should work. Um, all right, y'all. So, yes, last week worked out pretty well because, when we met on Monday of last week, we talked about that there would be a lot of, not a lot, we didn't quantify it, but we said that there would be a good bit of setups starting last week. We saw those, and I think that we're going to continue to see some more setting up this week as well. Were y'all able to get into a few positions?
I did.
Okay, awesome. And anything that you've gotten into, probably there'll be a secondary entry as well too, for either adding on or if you're watching if you got in one and now your position's in the money, so now you have capacity to add some more. Um, for me, what I have here is, let's see. Hold on, letting Harshita in here. Okay. Um, here are the ones that I'm looking at this week. Amazon started a bit of a pivot here on sometime last week, so there was definitely an entry there. Now, what we're looking at, if we look at just the market chart, is last week we hit around that all time near the previous high. So, what we did naturally is pull back from it. So my expectation is that we will move that we will break that this week and just continue from there. So essentially creating another leg here, right? So a lot of times when I'm trading, I keep an eye on like how many legs there are in before we have a deeper pullback. So we had this one here where we broke out of the base and we went up. We had a very short period of digestion, and then another one, and then we had a small pullback. Usually, this is what pullbacks and digestions look in a very strong uptrending market. So now my anticipation is that we're gonna build another leg up here before maybe a deeper digestion. Who knows? And then I'm expecting maybe like sometime around late fall, winter time for some more rotational kind of movement where we stay between a range. That's pretty usual. All right, I'm gonna move all of this out here. Um, so, hello everyone. Hey Nathan. Hey Arshita. Welcome. We were just kind of talking about the market, and now want to go through a couple of stocks. So here are a couple that I have here on my short list. Are there any ones that you want me to jump in first that maybe you have on yours as well?
And ARM.
ATKR.
Oh, what was yours, Rob?
ATKR.
Oh yeah. Okay. So Rob pointed this one out over the weekend here, and Rob, also in the community, if just no pressure, but if you ever feel like you want to drop an idea, I did create a separate little channel that says community trade ideas, because I thought this one was pretty neat because it's definitely within our parameters of like in an uptrend. So it's a confirmed uptrend with all the moving averages lined up, and then it had a huge bar on Friday. So getting into this one, it's one of those that potentially is a little bit scary because it's already moved so much in such a short time. So really all you can do is set yourself an area because it may not pull back anytime soon. And what you'll do is set yourself an area. So once you get in, maybe using like the 15-minute chart, Like if there's an intraday pullback on a smaller chart, you come in, let's say if it comes down to 82, and then you'll just set that level and say, okay, I'm going to hold it as long as it doesn't break this level. Or if some of you have a stop loss that's based on a percentage of loss, like for me for options at 40%, I start looking at if I really do need to close this position. So um, this one is just pretty. I mean, it also started, you could see that the accumulation is very, very gradual, and the digestion period is also very controlled. So this one is on the list. How I'd enter is just what I said. I'm going to see if there's an intraday. Rob, have you looked at this, the option prices, the spread on this?
No, I haven't yet. I can.
Yeah, I'll take a quick look. Hold on. Let's
All right.
see. So ATKR. Okay, so it's about 50 cents to a dollar. Wait, let's see. Let me go out to. Oh, okay. So this one is the expirations are, they only have monthly options. So if you're looking for June 18th, this it's still a pretty wide spread, like $2 to $3. Okay, so for me, and I've gotten in things with huge spreads before. It's just that they really had to move before I was in the money. But I typically don't do it, especially because, as you can see on our short list, on my movers list, on the community list, there are so many more that you can trade options on that have a small spread that you don't need to be like $2,000 in the hole before it starts moving, right? Um, so yeah.
That's what I noticed. I had picked some other ones, but there wasn't much for options available, and they were still companies in the 1 billion and higher market cap as well. So not all had options, good options available. So I've been weeding through and finding decent companies that have a great list of options on the chain that have a smaller 50-cent or so spread on them. So it's better to get into.
Yeah, for sure. I remember one time making a trade, and there was just a very small movement in the stock price, and it was down $1,500 like immediately, and I was like, oh my gosh, like what happened? And then I realized like I didn't pay any attention to the spread, and I just don't like that. But yeah, so this one at 84.75, definitely potential for a stock position on it. And yeah, so the first one I was talking about, Nathan Harshita, was Amazon. It had its pivot here on Tuesday, but I'm looking at like it's come back to retest. If we're looking here on the hourly, we popped up above the moving averages, and usually when we're breaking out of the hourly, it's that we've pulled back on the daily, right? So Chad, you had asked a while back about stages, and yes, each time frame does have a stage and also a structure, right? So when we're looking at this overall, it's still in an uptrend. We're getting a pullback, but if you look at the hourly, it had went down below its 50 SMA. So if we want to call that a stage 4, and then it started to go sideways, we get a pop above, and now it's breaking out on the hourly. And on the hourly now, what I'm looking for is, this is normal, right? We pop above the moving averages and we retrace back to them. So we're just looking for, is it going to hold here around this 20, my lavender line? Or is it going to come down further to the 50? We just have to see where it starts building. So I'm looking for, we've got this red candle. I'm looking for a green candle and then a red candle that retests but holds, and then that's when I want to get in. So 266 may be the area, or somewhere further down 265. Now we're talking about 266, almost 266 and a half, and 265. Getting in anywhere around here, yes, I'd love to be close, like I'd love to get in where the move is going to start, but this is a pretty small range if it does back up a little bit, so it's not going to take me out. So I'm interested in Amazon. Go ahead and put this on deck. It might open up because once we get it's give maybe a little bit of resistance around 276, but by then you'd be well in the money to manage a smaller pullback as it breaks to new highs, right? So that's just the expectation, but of course we just look at what the charts are telling us. UNH, Chad, this one, right? So you saw a little bit about kind of like how everything played out, and it's starting to go up now, right? So pull back on the daily, which is going to be a breakout on the hourly. We've come up, we've popped above moving averages, come back down. So it wasn't quite ready yet there, flushed out a bit further, pop back up. And so right here, it's given a really good shelf here. So this is a place to add on or add an options position on here, right? So UNH, it's pretty, we've got great support. So if it doesn't hold here at this hourly level around 386, then we're coming down to 385. Again, just like Amazon, it's not a huge, if you get anywhere in this range. And then it's potential that it builds up from here. A lot of times when it pops above this 50 SMA on the hourly, we'll get a retest back to it. But you want to see that it's very shallow, not shallow, but short-lived. So it gets bought up within a few hours, right? So this is in a good position today as well. When I say today, like as we're looking at it, it could be that it doesn't give us a setup until tomorrow, tomorrow's Wednesday. Yeah, so short week. But are y'all seeing kind of what I'm looking at when I'm building my short list and putting things, I call it on deck. So they're my players that I'm getting ready. Yeah. Okay. This one.
UNH was one that I already got in as I told you, a little early, unfortunately, but it's profitable somewhat.
Yeah, no, it wasn't bad. It wasn't a bad move. It was just early. So
I tend to get in early. I don't know. I mean, I think that's something I really, really need to work on. Like you said, get to the right side of the base and
oh yeah,
the gun.
That was probably one of the things that my I mean, when I talk about mentors, y'all, I've had so many. I've worked with like mindset coaches and then actual traders and then day traders and a bit of everyone. But one of my mentors, that was something that he told me, and I literally made one chart that said X, and then when to get in, and I circled it. And like that image, that's why it's important to do screenshots so you can visually see. That's something that really did change for me getting in too early. And I'll get in now. The earliest I get in is probably a few days. And then sometimes like it doesn't work. Sometimes it seems like you're on the right side of the base, but you're not. Let me see if I can pull up that one picture that I have because it is so simple, but it's helped me so much. Let's see, charting or my chart examples. Yeah. I'm going to see if I can share. Let me switch here. Present something else. All right, I don't see that I can, but I can probably just drop it in the chat or in the group because it's just a small image, but yeah. So getting in early, part of that is just, that underlying fear of missing out. You don't want to miss that first big push. But usually what that looks like is here, right? So maybe it was on this green candle, maybe it was on this green candle, and the thing is, this has just stopped going down. So you got to think of it in terms of like we've barely hit the brakes here, and now we've got to like get ourselves together. And I think about this like, if you're like driving really fast and then like we've hit the brakes and like all your stuff is flying everywhere, and now you're like, okay, let me take a moment to compose myself. And this is how it works, right? So we're going down, we pump the brakes. This is just pumping the brakes. We're like, okay, I'm like getting myself together, I'm good. And then it's like, no, not yet. And then finally you're at that place where you're like, okay, I'm ready now, right? So it's kind of like we're rushing down, almost ready, missing a few things, and now we're ready to go. So the market just really moves like we all do in life. So you just got to give us a minute sometimes. So UNH I like. DELL moved up really strongly last week, which helped me out because I had some options expiring on this one. Unfortunately, I did not add here, but I do want to point this out. Oh, wait, but we've got earnings coming up Thursday. Okay. You can totally do a few-day trade. Like, it's up to you. But now that we have earnings Thursday night, you'd want to take it off by Thursday, market close. But this right here, whenever you see this, I like to call this like the, like this is definitely a money. I have it listed in my TradeZella as, what do I have it listed? I can't even remember it. A cluster consolidation is what I call it in my TradeZella strategy, because it is just like this little bit of like dojis that goes sideways, and usually this precedes a big move up. Canute, you had mentioned something last week. These were all under their 200 moving average, but I did look at it again. Oh, I think it was now. Yeah. And now it looks like it's doing that same thing. So it might be it could go up today, or it could be another 2-3 days. But if we're getting this like healthy sideways consolidation, this typically precedes after we've got this break above the moving averages, even though we're below the 200, we've got this little cluster here. And if it plays out well, then we're going to get a strong move up from there, right? So it's kind of what I'm looking at as well. Let's see.
Do you just look at that as another shelf, but on the daily chart? I mean,
oh yeah.
When you say shelves, you usually talk about the hourly, right? I mean, or it doesn't matter, I guess.
Yeah. So yes, usually I'm talking about the hourly, but it's just because it's really, shelf is just a support level that I see on the hourly that I can trade against, because I'm not going to set my stop loss on the daily, right? Because it's too far, right? So I'm looking like, so if I were to, this one here is at 99 as a shelf. I'm good with that. But if I were to, I mean, this is kind of pretty close, but this is 90, this is like $2 down, right? But a lot of times the reason I'm looking at the hourly is because the daily, like I wouldn't set my stop loss at like 86 on this for my options trade. So I'm looking for something that's like tight as I can get it to where I'm entering. But yeah, exactly what you're saying. It's just, shelf for me is just a level of support, and this one matches the daily, is just a tiny bit further down than the hourly. So a 98, we could say 98 and a half here. We've got a level, and you want to enter today, and just as long as it doesn't breach that, fine. We could get a temporary flush out below the moving averages. Sometimes there is if you watch that price cycle video where Jack Corsellis explains Oliver Kell's price cycle and how he thinks through his trading, it's just like a visit back towards the moving averages, which is just it's a very typical retest, right? Sometimes we go back to the moving averages, but sometimes we go back through them. What we want to see, though, is how do buyers respond? So we could go back through them, but you'll see that buyers are coming in strong, and then everything's just fine, right? So also depends on your exit rules, right? So for me, I don't take stuff off first thing. Like that first hour has to play out. Like I am not, it doesn't matter how ugly it looks. I am not taking positions off in the first hour. I'm also not adding positions on in the first hour. 98% of the time, it's better that way. There are very few occasions where that first 15 minutes will give me my entry. But it's so rare that I don't get a retest during the day at 11 o'clock, at 1:30, at 2:30, at 3, or the next day, that it's just not worth it to me. So I skip the noise, and then telling you all this because if we do get a retest through the moving averages, usually if it's ready to go, that move will resolve itself within a few hours. So I assess throughout the day if I really need to pull that off or if it's starting to build back to where I entered. Again, that's always going to have to do with what your exposure limits are, what your stop loss rules are, what your hard stops are. And that's something you have to build personally. So I picked up a net this morning. I hadn't looked at this one in a while, but it did this great little thing after earnings, similar to what Rambus did. It just completely sold off, and then it's creating a little bit of a base, and it's popped up. This is the daily here. It's popped up here, and now in pre-market it's up even higher here. But I wouldn't be surprised to get some area here where we can get in on this one. See how it responds here in pre-market. And yeah, so the good thing about this one is that we have I want to say at minimum it's gonna go from right now it's 157, almost 158. So at minimum to fill this gap, maybe a little hesitation here at new highs, and then the expectation that it continues to build, especially if the overall market continues to be bullish as well. Okay, did I talk about Regati? I had this I traded this a long time ago, somewhere in the fun part right here. So I had a few trades here last year. Then I took it off my list after it didn't recover anymore. But now it's doing something. And this is a small stock that moves pretty fast when it does. In both directions, right? So don't get greedy on this one. It'll stall out and completely obliterate your position. Yeah, that's what I got for y'all. Some ideas for the week and kind of what to look at. Y'all want to look at something?
I'm watching.
Go ahead, Rob.
No, Chad, sorry. Go ahead. You first.
Oh, I was going to say ARM. It had a huge move up. And the daily looks like it's way overextended, but now it's building a shelf on the hourly. I was just curious if this was anything that you would consider. It is an all-time high.
Yeah. So I mean, generally, the sentiment, at least for me, what I've learned is all-time high means that we're, in my friends' terms, bullish AF. So don't be scared of all-time highs. And y'all go back in history and look at periods where we were in an uptrend and we're creating new highs after new highs, week over week, month over month, right? So just let the past data show you what an all-time high looks like, right?
Okay.
On this one, the tricky parts are like it's kind of what we were talking about with that first stock that we saw, where once I think it was yours, Rob, the new one that you brought up. Once it gets going, it's really about where, if you're jumping in, how far of a pullback would you tolerate if you got in at a place where it's pulling back? Would you take it off immediately or midday and try again? Or, for example, we're going to open higher here. Are you going to get in around 11 midday with any hint of a pullback there? And then if it gaps down tomorrow, will you be able to tolerate and see that through where, and then you'll see, if you see buyers step in and you're like, okay, I'm fine, right? So when we're trading all-time highs, when we're trading things that are already going, you want to do your best to think through scenarios and talk yourself through them before it happens. So that way you're prepared, just like, y'all know my favorite book, David Goggins. Has anyone read that, by the way?
Yeah, I did. It's a very good book.
Yeah.
Keeps you on track and keep working.
Yeah. So David.
Is that the mindset one? Which one was that one?
It's David Goggins. Can't Hurt Me.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Okay, so actually that is the book that I recommend to new traders or anyone who's struggling in life, business, being profitable. It doesn't matter because it really, really just gives it to you straight and really shows how much we pretty much get in our own ways. And the David Goggins story is incredible. But one thing, he comes from a military background. So one thing, like when he plans his races, because he's an ultra marathoner, we're not talking about like 26, whatever the marathon miles are. He's running 50, 100 plus miles. He runs 4 days. But he thinks through all the scenarios, right? And it took him a while to get there because you'll read his early races where he was totally unprepared. Now he's going 10 steps ahead. Just like, if you're playing chess, you want to think ahead so that like when, by the way, I've newly picked up chess to kind of give myself something different to do to work my brain. So I'll probably bring up references, but with chess, like if the other side eats my player, but I've already anticipated it, I'm not worried, like, because I'm like, this is where it can go, right? So, but when it eats my player and I wasn't prepared and I didn't plan for it, I like that feeling sucks, right? So anytime you're putting on a trade, you want to think about your worst case scenarios, which typically would be a gap down, right? Or a very sharp reversal. And you want to be mentally prepared for that, because if you've gone through that scenario, then you're like, okay, I'm good. Like it was a possibility, right? And then just plan from there. So here we got the market's open now. Yay. So you see ARM at this new high, it's given it. So Chad, then we're just gonna see how it responds here. Sometimes you'll get these little pullbacks, and then there's like a very, very, this is a 5-minute, we can look over at the 15-minute, a very, very small area where it gives a little bit of resistance. But we'll see here if there's something around this 309 area that it's going to build. Maybe it'll come to test the top of that second, that first green candle around 300, right? If it comes back to test 300, that makes sense. That's a psychological level, right? If we're holding around 300, I like that. So nothing to really do but wait, right? And And if your rules allow you to get in or before 10:30, 11, fine. My rules don't, and that for me has saved me a million times over. And it's gotten me the best price. It's also like on certain things like AMD has definitely like on a, like something like a reversal here. It's waiting, you don't get this price down here, but eventually, as you can see, even on a reversal, you're getting, this is $10 more, right? But now I have something to me that feels more secure because it has been retested a few times. And that's why I wait, because I operate, for me, my edge, besides my chart reading, my technical analysis, like what I can see, my edge is really based on just waiting for structure. So, all right, y'all. See, we've got this going on, Chad, with UNH.
Mm-hmm.
It might come down to the 20 EMA on the daily, but we'll see.
Yeah.
So, and that's just how they work. And if you've planned in your head, one, we know that the 50 SMA a lot of times, if we don't break through the first time, it's going to reject first. And then if we break through, typically it comes back to retest it or near it pretty quickly. So, but nothing to see here yet. So 375 and so between my levels on here, where I would imagine if it doesn't hold the level it's at right now, would be this little, if you look at the 372.5 to the 20, which is the 20 EMA on the daily, which is about almost 376. So I think that would be the worst case scenario. If it starts breaking down further than that, like if I was in an option, I would definitely be out just to give it time. Because the other thing you have to remember, once something breaks down, it needs time to collect itself. Some of us collect ourselves really quickly, can pivot very fast, got the lipstick and the powder in the bag already and I'm good to go. And some of us need like whole showers to press our hair, so it's a lot going on. Right. Rob, you shaking your head, right? How when you're trying to get ready to go somewhere with your wife, right?
Yes. Yep. Exactly.
All right. So, okay.
You got one there?
No, I'm ready for
more
suggestions.
All right, I got a suggestion on Qualcomm, and the reason I like Qualcomm is because it's at all-time highs on the daily. It's created a cup and handle pattern on the 1-hour chart, and it has a beautiful shelf on the 15-minute time frame.
Okay, and what's the ticker on that one?
QCOM, QCOM.
QCOM. Okay, yeah. So here, yeah, this is a nice one too. So I guess we're going to have Rob be in charge of adding community ideas here. You picked some good ones. Let's see.
I have 4 scanners. I was eventually going to get 1 or 2 that were worth getting into this week.
Yeah. Still same, this is still the very dominant theme that's really going. So,
and all the 4 time frames, it's at or above the moving averages, so it doesn't have to fight to get through the 50, the 200 moving average. At the 15-minute, it's well above the 50. 1 hour is nice, like it's a nice moving average stock, and the 1 day, the daily chart, the 50 is just becoming over top of the 200 right now. And if that happens, this can turn into a long runner, probably for $200 or $300 if all is good and if everyone's with it. Because that cup and handle pattern's a perfect pattern to say, hey, yep, we did up one side, came down the other, made a horizontal handle instead of a little diagonal one. And watching it on the 15-minute, it's doing well just at the top of the box, and just waiting to see if it's going to pull back or not, because right now it's quite tug of war with the sellers and the buyers, because it's just basically hanging out doing the doji candle at the moment. So that's something I'd watch after 1 o'clock today, later in the afternoon on the 15-minute, and see where it actually goes, and then look for an entry sometime this week if possible.
Yeah, for sure. Taking a look at this one. Yeah, so this is kind of, how you would think through and play through this. So we've got a big expansion candle here that happened last Friday. And it's almost like, we're talking about that bit of like a cluster here. These are the things that even I am working to get better at seeing quicker, right? Because a lot of times when you're here and you're looking at this, it doesn't really look like something you want to get into yet sometimes, right? Now we're training our eyes, right, to be like, okay, looks like it's done going down. We're having, as Chad, you mentioned, like could even be potentially a shelf here. But now this is just the second. So we've broken out. Now we're here at this previous high. Is it an all-time? Oh, look. 231. Okay. I guess that's the other data that we have on this one. But it's at a high, right? And trying to break through this next one. So it's either going to go fast, where like within, maybe by 11, we get another pullback to get in. And it's just going to continue building up from here. So that's where you kind of just have to set your probabilities, like, because it's possible that it does not retest further before going up. Or we will get a bit of a retest to maybe, it could just hang around this 236 area where we have this shelf right now. Or we could get a further pullback, which then we want to just wait for a few hourly candles to see how buyers are stepping in. But yeah, very strong. Definitely right about, when this moving average start really getting in order. Typically that means we'll have a run for a while. So maybe not a long, options can be very expensive when you buy them like months out, but you can definitely buy stock on this. So I like it. I'm gonna add this on. All right. What else do y'all want to see?
I have BA and PM.
All right. So I was wondering about the Dow stocks, if they were going to do anything this year. Did you say TM?
PM.
P?
Yeah.
Paul?
Yeah.
Flourish. Okay. Okay. Interesting. So here's one that's not in our theme. But it definitely has a strong, like we had a strong push after earnings here. And definitely something that could set up today. So do you have comments on these?
I see a nice shelf on the daily and a base on the hourly, so I got interested in this.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe today, tomorrow. I see it's pulled back to a key level too on the hourly.
Yeah. Definitely the setup is there. It's just broke. So with this, what I would, it's not a be careful one. What I want to, it's just like everything else, right? So what I like about this is definitely the setup is there. Now we've dipped below the 50 SMA. So now if it comes down here or near here for an entrance, You do want to make sure that this starts to build back up, and this was a temporary just breach of this moving average, because a lot of times when things go sideways and cannot break above a level, whether it's 190 or 193, it'll pull back, so it'll break down before it's ready to go back up. But other than that, the levels are there, and it's just fine. It's definitely and the moving averages are in order, looks strong here. The only caution I would give is it's been in this range for a bit and hasn't had like a real do y'all remember Google, right? When I was like, this looks good, and then it like literally just completely sold off for a few days. That could be similar to this, and then maybe retesting all the way down to yeah. And again, it doesn't mean it's a no, but it means just be cautious that it has not. After this run, is this enough digestion? We won't really know, but let it play out and then see about it in the middle of the day, later today. And then BA, you know what? The only thing about these, I mean, is the Dow moving? Like, are Dow stocks moving this year? Like, I've been waiting for, I did a pretty poor buy on American Express, because American Express, this is one thing about, you can't marry your stocks, right? American Express did me so well for so many years, and I continue to try to trade it this year, and it was a complete like letdown. JPM, AXP, those were my money makers, and now here we are, and BA too. And now here we are with these Dow stocks, and we're like, what is going on? So
I guess that's why their option prices are a little low than the SPX or NASDAQ stocks.
Well, unfortunately, it's like you got to spend money to make money, right? Like there are some lower priced options for sure on the NASDAQ stocks, but you also want to make sure you buy enough time. But yeah, this is in the middle of its range. I'm not necessarily interested in it because it's just going ping ponging from one end to the other. Maybe if we were looking at it here, but that was before earnings. But it is possible that we're starting to, this could be, here's a higher low. So from here, higher low, maybe this is a higher low. And again, if you want to try your hand at it, it's no big deal. But we have just pumped the brakes. This is the first time we popped above moving averages here. It was the first time we're popping above moving average here. But it is in a bit of a downtrend here still. So it could take a while to really like come out of this. Versus if you're looking at some of the ones that, wait, Chad, I just wanted to this is why I don't have my chart. So like if I'm in something, like I can't have this sidebar open because I will obsess. Like, where are we going? It's just going down to the 20. I think it's still fine, but it's going to be a little while till we get back up there. But yeah, Harshita, versus like something that is in, if you look at this, even this as far as Rampus goes, it did this thing here, but then started pushing back up. It's on theme, right? We're looking for things that are on theme. And it's not ping-ponging between two levels. Like you could see that on the on BA. So even, let's see. I would say like I would be interested probably first in something like Amazon before I would touch those. And I think Amazon has some fairly priced options.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. So that's it. I mean, that's really what I'm looking at and looking for. Y'all, I still have a few shares of Meta that are just sitting there. Some of these, I did some poor buying earlier this year, and I'm just like, all right. Whoever brought up, I don't think it was Shopify, it was Spotify, right? Spotify? Yes. This is definitely not in an uptrend, but if it continues this momentum, this is something that once we build above this 200 SMA will probably give us that little bit, like that little cluster of sideways. And if we can get a clean little something there, once it's back above, I mean, it's really been going. So yeah, look at this one. Yeah, Rob, this one is pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's got a little bit of steam. I don't know how much, but yeah, when I seen that and I did my levels and I checked where my invalidation level would be and all that, it was like, oh, that's something that could go somewhere, and it just may. But right now on the 15, it's pulling back a little bit. So for a retest, so I'll check after lunch to see where it actually goes or if it builds a shelf up there on the 15-minute.
Yeah, a lot of times when we have a gap up, the price does come back to test at least where it gapped up to. Sometimes it comes back to test the gap origin. But with the gap up there, wouldn't be unusual to see the price come down, maybe even undercutting it or coming down to this one here. Either way, I feel like that range right there would be, if we are bullish on that and just are open to it pulling back more before it goes up, but we don't know because it might not pull back further than just that, especially with the momentum behind it. Those are the things you kind of got to think through when you're buying something that's already going. Because it's really hard. Like you could see even here, this was just a small little, there wasn't much of a pullback once it started going like that. This is a 5-minute, by the way, and that was it, So
The other thing I keep in mind when it gaps up like that is if the candles come down and close the gap in 3 to 5 days, then I find that then the stock is broke down and it's going to come down farther. If in 3 to 5 days it doesn't close the gap, that usually tells me from experience that it's stronger and it'll move up more. So that's one for the next 3 to 5 days. I'll keep an eye on to see where the candles really go for the price action, because then the people will tell us whether it's at the top or it has room to go.
yeah, just like here, gapped up. It literally did the retest the next day, but it just tested and then continued to build up from there. So, this one, AAON is one that I had on my list. Seemed to be holding this area here. It looks like it's taken off today. I don't know much about it, and I haven't traded it yet, but I liked the way it looked and I liked the way it moved. It was pretty big, and then it looks like we're holding this level. 127 continued to build from there.
This one has like $3 spread.
Ooh, yeah. So maybe more of a stock play. Here are some that are potentially breaking out, but haven't done so yet. I wonder, we've got earnings coming up on Salesforce tomorrow, so maybe we'll see a little bit more movement in this group, which the group was packaged software, so it's still in tech, but it's a slightly different group. This one here, I think this one has a wide spread too. But if we look at this one, on the hourly, potentially the stage 4, potentially we're done going down. We've put on the brakes, we've popped up, so this is a first interest here. And definitely we could build something here, a bit of support in order to get in. Let's see. there's like this this one I regret so much because Sarshita actually pointed this one out. I think she pointed it out somewhere here. Sometimes you don't have any more, like if you've hit your exposure limits, you can't add on everything. But I am just hoping that at least twice this year, I get in something that just goes up with no pullbacks.
You have to do your research. You have to do your due diligence.
Yeah, well, what I'm really getting better at is the that kind of this right here, right? Because I got an arm. I did get an arm somewhere along this area here around 207, 208. So I have a stock position on this one. So just getting better at selectivity, not getting too distracted by things that are not on theme right now, or making sure I still have enough, not being tied up in something that's not ready yet and then something else is taken off. So that's probably been my main thing this year, is just being more selective and just waiting. I wait a lot more. So
I have a question about your stochastic RSI at the bottom of your levels.
yes.
How much do you put into those RSI stochastics as you watch the stock rise or fall?
Like how much importance do I give them?
Yeah, because it could be below 20 on the daily,
Mm.
and then it could be coming up on the 1 hour, and it could be at a high on the 15, like over 70 on the 15-minute.
Mm-hmm.
And if it turns up on the daily and the 15 is already high, because I've used stochastic and RSI separately before.
Yeah.
And as they roll up through that area, I usually call it the cookie jar, because it usually has the best probability of the stock doing well through that 30 to 70 phase on the RSI and the stochastic. Do you look at it that way as well, or do you look at it differently?
Saying 30 to 70 on which time frame?
Every time frame. I'm not sure what levels you have your boundary set, but mine are 30 and 70. I set them at, some set them at 20, 80 default.
Yeah, so the lines that I have are 20 and 80.
80, okay.
I did not mess with it. I just used the one that was provided by TradingView. So I didn't do anything special to it. So the importance of I used to actually not have it. I just added it maybe over a year ago, because I was just doing price action levels. And then I went ahead and added an oscillator, because you can also use the MACD. It really just like the nuances you have with, how would you exit a parabolic move over exiting just kind of a standard uptrend, right? Same thing goes with using an indicator like the stock RSI. If we're above 80 on the daily and that thing is going like, an AMD, crowd, MU, I don't care that it's overbought. Like, I'm not going to wait for it to come back down. On the hourly, kind of the same thing for my parabolic moves. A lot of times the stock RSI would have been below 20 earlier in the move. So you just look to the left if it had already kind of reset back then. So this one reset and it's going here. My best move could be when this comes back down to reset, but it might not do that. So I always pay attention to structure first, key levels and structure, and what price is doing. And then I'm definitely not gonna wait on this hourly to come back down. But if this goes sideways, this will come back down as it's digesting that pop above the moving averages. So The one thing that I do sometimes wait for is actually the 5 minutes. So my entry to come down below 20. I'll usually do this. I'll add an alert because, and I use this often. Once this alerts me, I know that the morning digestion is probably done, and then I take a look at it. And a lot of times, sometimes waiting on the 5 minute to reset, I have missed a better entry. But most of the time, waiting for the 5 minute gives me just enough. So, like, if we look at this price structure here, instead of having entered maybe here at 675, it would have let me enter at 666. So as far as, yeah, sure, if we're starting a move and this is down here, like sometimes I'm like, okay, we've done a little digestion, the stock RSI is reset, but they are far down my list of like, they definitely do not need to be reset for me to get in. And then the 15 minute kind of treat it like the 5 minute, but a lot of times when the move is going, let me find it somewhere here. For example, right here, when this move is going, this is already overbought. So we're going. And, this particular example, it sold off. So let me go to something that I go over to. Let's go over to AMD. So AMD, this, when we had that pivot, the daily stock RSI was down. And so now we can, the idea is that we're going to keep going up from here, right? For a few days at least, right? We could. It's very possible. But here, as you can see, like these were all great entries here. But look at the stock RSI. Like if you were to, and I'm not saying that you said that you wait for it. I didn't say, that's not what I'm saying. But like, I'm not going to wait for this, even if the 1 hour is overbought. It's just a combination, right? But if we go here and I'm like, oh, I really want to buy it here. And I'm like, let me wait for the stock RSI to reset. Then I can get a price here. And that's usually what happens when I wait for the 5 minute stock RSI to reset, right? So I remember, y'all, that the 5 and 15 minute charts that I use are not the charts that tell me I am allowed to trade this. The daily and the hourly tell me I'm allowed to trade this. 5 and 15 is just for me to try to get a better entry because I'm trading options. So does that, I know it's a long answer because there's never a yes, no answer here, but does that answer your question, Rob?
Oh yeah, definitely. No, that's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was putting them on my charts and watching how they respond to price action and everything. And I was just seeing if there's a correlation between the two.
Yeah.
But yeah, it makes sense on your 5 minute where it was up above 80 and then it did come back below 20 and then created a better entry for sure.
Yep. It's really all it is. And yeah, so a lot of it is, I have 3 different exits. Well, 4. I've got my invalidation exits, and then I have my exits that are based on profit targets, and then I have my exits for parabolic moves. There's a lot of things that you can continue to really refine as you go. So even when I teach my setup, which is not even a strategy, it's just how to enter, that's just like step 0.001. And then from there, you can build from there, right? So a lot of work. A lot of your answers can come from just going like we did with AMD. I just scrolled back and I said, look, this is where I would wanted to have entered. This is what the stock RSI on the 15 minute was doing. This was the hourly, you just go back to where you wanted to have entered and you write everything that you see. And then you start to notice a pattern of probability, like which one, most of the time when the stock RSI on the 5 minute is reset, it's my best entry. So when I noticed that in my data, then I made that adjustment. So, all right, y'all. I'm gonna finish the recording, finish and record.